Walk into your doctor's office with this M54 gas mask on. First of all, you'll get a laugh, but you'll also make a point. In a real chemical attack, you'll be the one to survive. The Patriot M54 gas mask offers complete eye, face, and respiratory protection against chemical, biological, and radioactive contamination. It's lightweight, it has very low breathing resistance. Order today and you'll get 30% off with coupon code STILL30. Click on this link below, www.getagasmask.com. Good evening. I'm still reporting on the coup. If you believe in the Pelosi version of the January 6th Capitol riot, you have to be a firm believer in coincidences, because the attack on the U.S. Capitol building that day had a boatload of them. Was it just coincidence that the FBI knew about the planned assault on the Capitol, but didn't think it was important enough to either contact the Capitol Police directly or send federal law enforcement officers to the Capitol to assist the Capitol Police? According to reports, the Capitol Police chief thought something was up with the thousands of protesters planning to march on the Capitol building, but couldn't get or didn't ask for authorization to get help from the National Guard or other law enforcement agencies beforehand. Why didn't the Capitol Police put up real barricades instead of using bike racks? Don't they own real barricades designed for riots? Why didn't the Capitol Police chief have his entire available force protecting the Capitol that day? Why were those who were on duty that day not in riot gear? You either believe a riot's going to happen or you don't. In other words, if you think you're going to be attacked by thousands of people and you can't get help from anyone else, then at the very least you would make certain that you are as prepared as possible. But the Capitol Police were not prepared and clearly had no plan, or if there was a plan, it was not conveyed to the officers on the ground, and there was no backup plan if the mob overran the bike racks, which anyone could have foreseen. Why wasn't the mob pelted with pepper balls, which are similar to a paintball but filled with pepper spray instead of paint? Why didn't they fog the entire area with pepper spray or whatever they use these days? In the videos, you can see that many of the Capitol Police don't have shields, helmets, or even billy clubs. They're using their hands to try to hold back the mob. And it's no surprise they failed. Are these the anti-riot tactics they're teaching in the D.C. Police Academy? When rioters attack the Capitol building itself, especially when a joint session of Congress is underway, use only hand-to-hand combat and bike racks. It's like sending a beat cop and a German Shepherd out to the interstate to stop speeders. The Capitol Police were not given the tools they needed to be successful, nor any sort of fallback plan. Many of the news reports emphasize that the Capitol Police were outnumbered. The police are always outnumbered in a riot, but in most instances they use superior equipment, technology, communications, and tactics. Few, if any, other police departments in the country would send officers out with no plan and no equipment to try to stop a riotous mob, because they know what would happen. So why did the Capitol Police perform less competently than any county sheriff's force in the country? Shouldn't we expect the best protection of the nation's Capitol building? When the National Guard was finally called, it took over 3 hours for the National Guard commanders to get authorization to send troops to the Capitol. This is a simply amazing coincidence. It was pretty much over by then. In an emergency when minutes matter, there was no way for the National Guard to send troops without an agonizing, slow authorization process? Finally, if this was in fact an insurrection where the mob is trying to violently overthrow the government of the United States, why was only one shot fired? And that was when someone in a Capitol Police uniform shot an unarmed woman in the head from near point-blank range, a military veteran at that. In most situations, when police observe people actively breaking the law, they arrest those people. They don't summarily execute them. But in this crazy mixed-up scenario, the Capitol Police arrested very few people that day, even those still inside the Capitol building once they regained control. Why didn't they arrest everyone who is still in the building? Another inexplicable coincidence. So the question is, were all these mere coincidences? Was it a coincidence that the FBI didn't bother to make a single phone call or send a text message or an email to the Capitol Police? It's only about a mile between the FBI headquarters on Pennsylvania Avenue and the United States Capitol. Was it a coincidence that with all the law enforcement agencies in Washington, D.C., and the Army's old guard always ready to go just across the river in Fort Myer, that the Capitol Police could get no help from anyone? Was it a coincidence that knowing an attack was coming, that the attackers were more organized and appeared to have done more planning than the Capitol Police? Was it a coincidence, with all the firepower the Capitol Police did have, that only one weapon was fired? Not to mention no weapons were fired by the so-called insurgents. Was it a coincidence that it took 3 hours to get authorization to send the National Guard to the Capitol building when it was under attack and it was being occupied by a sort of violent mob? Finally, was it a coincidence that when law enforcement finally did get control of the building, that they didn't arrest anyone inside? Feel free to add as many more coincidences as you like, but any way you look at it, there were a lot of coincidences. Many people don't believe in coincidences at all. If you happen to be one of those, how in the world do you explain what happened? Here's what Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, said about the Capitol riot just 2 days ago on Thursday. Even though those thousands of people that were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people like me to vote the way they wanted them to vote, I knew those were people that love this country, that truly respect law enforcement, would never do anything to break the law, and so I wasn't concerned. I never really felt threatened. But Pelosi and company have used this flimsy hodgepodge of completely non-conforming coincidences as justification to make the United States Capitol building look more like a prison camp than the People's House, rigged with an unscalable 7-foot razor wire topped fence in an attempt to cast the incident in the eyes of history as a Trump-caused violent insurgency to overthrow the government.
Well, a crowd gathered in Washington, D.C. today to protest the heightened security around the U.S. Capitol. This in the wake of the January 6th riot. Thanks to exclusive reporting by Fox News, we know that while Democrats in the White House have pushed to keep thousands of armed troops in place, the head of the National Guard believes it's time to pack it up.
The Pentagon recently announcing more than 2,000 troops will remain through mid-May. This deployment is not cheap, with the mission estimating to cost $500 million. Some National Guard troops are going home this weekend, but the group's lobbying firm says it's not enough. Top Guard officials writing, quote, "They have completed their mission. They have made us all proud. It's time for local law enforcement to take it from here." Now, some lawmakers feel the exact same way. On Friday, 5 Republican senators sent a letter to the acting Capitol Police chief demanding an update. It is entirely unclear to us why the fencing around the complex remains, given the absence of any current specific threat to the Capitol and given the ability to rapidly redeploy fencing should that threat posture change. This morning, dozens of people showed up near the Capitol to protest for fencing to come down, with people complaining the fencing makes the nation's capital look like a war zone.
The sooner this fence gets down, the better. As a member of Congress, I cannot get into the Capitol.
Every July 6th, any reporter worth a single day's wages must stand against the misinterpretation of this gigantic string of coincidences and keep repeating that we need the truth until we get it, and until a granite monument is finally erected in front of the Capitol explaining just exactly what happened, just as soon as we get down to the bedrock truth of the matter. We are not there yet, and our grandchildren will desperately need to know the truth about what happened. At this point, my best guess, and that's all it is that the once great People's House has become nothing less than Fortress Pelosi. and the razor wire fences there to exclude the voting electorate of the United States from any further meaningful participation in this great experiment in self-governance. I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day. Every doctor on TV says that we all need to boost our immune systems, and STEM Enhance does that in a unique way by increasing blood levels of your own adult stem cells, the backbone of your immune system, by over 30% in just 1 hour. Click on the link in the description box below for details.